I'm sorry about that. I actually pressed one button on my phone by accident when I was explaining things, so it opened another app and it broke apart. So I will try to continue from then, and I hope that nothing else happens. And that live stream is still on Facebook, and I will upload both parts on YouTube. Um, so if you had any questions, please write them again in the chat, um, because I didn't manage to read them yet. So on general, Senko is using lots of psychology, and then there is Gan, who is using psychology, and he is really interested about it, and he is a magician, a mentalist, and I would really like. I didn't read manga that ahead. I'm planning to when maybe anime ends, because now I want to be surprised because I'm watching anime more. And I really hope that there are some points when psychology is actually being mentioned more than just being a funny science, magical kind of thing. Um, and yeah, so that was short about how psychology is presented in Dr. Stone, and I'm not really impressed about it. And if I had the chance, I would advise them how to make that properly, or they should like ask other psychologists for help or something. But yeah, it's really good that they are trying to represent science on fun ways so people can learn more about it, and um, you can make people love science that way. So science is really powerful. Other thing that I'm thinking about Dr. Stone is the how accurate it is. And many people I saw that they are asking on Google and other pages that if it is really that accurate. I would really like for many scientists to react to Dr. Stone, and I would really like to record my reaction to it. Maybe I will when all episodes will be out. I would react from psychological perspective, although I also like other science and I am knowledgeable about it. Many things because I'm interested in science in general and so on, but I'm not 100% sure how accurate other things like physics and other things are. I recognize some of them from when we were learning in school or when I was reading something about it, but I'm not sure how accurate they are. But from psychological side, the beginning, in my opinion, is not really accurate. So they froze in stone. And from what I remember from first episode, Senko was actually counting so he could keep himself sane. So they weren't turned into stone in a way the time or they would froze like their brain or everything, but they were actually fully aware and they were falling they were fainting and maybe put into some kind of coma. And until the last episode or chapter, or at least the chapter in which someone would explain how that magical stone or stone works, I can say that it isn't really possible that someone would stay sane for 3000 years, even if you would counting. Why? Because first of all, the psychological science found out that if we are put in a space in which there is no sound, you can't hear anything, you can't touch anything. You're basically like in coma, but still aware. Even in coma, you are aware of everything. If your senses are not recognized or not given anything from outside, you would basically start to lose your mind. In a way, hallucination will appear. And the one first thing I remember for college is that boredom can actually kill you. And by boredom I mean when you are in space with no stimuli such as voice and sounds and something to touch and something to look at. And that way you are basically will go insane and slowly die, because that is one need we have, to actually have stimuli around us. And you probably think, yeah, every day if I go in silent place, there are no stimuli. But they actually are. First of all, you are feeling, if you are sitting, you are feeling a chair or couch on which you are sitting. You can actually feel the air. You can actually hear many things, even the moving in your house. Or but if you don't hear anything and you're bored, then, and of course hallucinations will appear and so go on. So it basically you will go insane. And there is actually a room like that. I know one room in which you can try it, and many people just can't stand it and they go outside. So this is one thing. So how can one survive for 3,000 years in their own mind? Okay, Senko was counting and his friend was losing mind, and his thought of girl he like keep him going. This is actually really important, because many times that motivation can drive us over, uh, can push us over every limit we have. This is actually also psychological, so maybe that author knows about it. So when we have a really strong desire or wish, everything is possible, and we can actually feel a power in us. There are stories, for example, when children were when there was earthquake and children were hurt, and parents or mother was with her bare hands lifted pieces of building, cars and everything. So basically motivation can really make you stronger and so go on. But 3,000 years is so exaggerating. I would really like to hear some other psychologists who have different opinions and more knowledge about it, if that's really possible. And on the other hand, we need food and we need drink and so on, and we also cannot survive without each other and love. If you're familiar with uh, Maslow actually discovered what basic needs we have, and after it there are also more other needs. So first basic needs are basically food and drinks, and also interaction with each other. So one cannot really survive on their own, or at least for a longer time. So that's really interesting how they survived. And I thought that maybe that stone had something in it, and that maybe because science fiction, they use the part of psychology. So if you're doing something, if you are bored or if you are under stress, for example, counting things, it actually helps. Same if you are thinking about something you like. So that's actually accurate, but for 3,000 years, I don't know. Um, and Lila has a theory that uh, she said, how the rock regenerates and even keeps them alive. Maybe it even fixed their mental state when it started to break. Yeah, I agree that maybe it was that kind of rock that it was fixing a mental state, because that rock needed to have something in it so they could still stay healthy and didn't need any food or drinks or sleep and so go on. So it needed to fix their mental state as well. So yeah, like Lala said, it fixed Senko's broken necks, and so why it wouldn't fix their mental state. So with the stone is really like that. It's really, it can be accurate, but I'm really interested what kind of stone it is, what it's in it, so that it can fix things. And if they are even considered that over time our mental health is broken, if you're in state like that, because that state is completely damaging for mental state. And then there is another thing which is actually also inaccurate in my opinion, but since it's anime which is concentrating on science like chemistry and biology and physics, I understand why it's not like that. So when those people, when Senku and his friend wake up from stone, so Senku is thinking only about restoring the society, and his friend is thinking about his love. And I'm always thinking with all those people, are they even, they don't even think about their families, their other friends. They're just thinking about the thing which are now and then. Just like if they would use mindfulness. And maybe yeah, it depends on a person. Some people, Senko could do that. That he is so into science that he maybe put his other thoughts away, or maybe that he has, I don't know, some mental condition. So he's really upset. He's really into science. So yeah, I'm thinking about autistic spectrum, but you couldn't really 100% be sure about it. And but yeah, I was surprised they are not talking about their families. They're not talking about their friends, not as much. They put that thought away, maybe because they're in shock or something, but eventually some of them would need a psychologist. I'm surprised no one broke so far. I'm surprised how strong they are. Of course, it is anime. In anime, bodies and mental state is so much stronger than mental state in our real life. But it is not really accurate. I think, and they are at that age that they sure would miss all their friends and family and grieve about them. So that's also not really accurate from the psychological part of view. So that is also a thing I was thinking about. And Lila also said that maybe there was an experiment in space, thus the astronauts creating a way to travel through space for as long as they need, like Saros sleep, but it went wrong. Unless I haven't seen enough and it's already explained. So far, it wasn't explained. I think in today's episode, we will see something about Senku's past, which could help us explain and learn more about it. But I think I think so far I think it won't be explained yet, even in those 24 episodes. And yeah, like Ryla said, in JoJo, it is also like that they broke their bodies and they keep going. So in anime, those characters actually have more power. And I mean, their bodies are stronger, and this could be seen in anime recreators, in which the doctors and other characters are so surprised since the bodies of fantasy like anime movie characters are so stronger that you could basically uh, punch them or fight with them so many times that they would still be alive and so go on. In mental state it is also, I think, similar. But yeah, I think in Japan they don't know. It depends. When I'm watching anime, I really think that many authors actually know a lot about psychology, or either they're trying to explain mental conditions and disorders on their own. Um, so many things are not as accurate, at least on scientific level. Um, so I'm also trying to think what else. Oh, in Doctor Stone, we can also see many emotions from Senko. Um, he's making such faces, and we could see his sadness and worry, and I think those emotions are so beautifully represented. Uh, and when he's actually sad or angry or so on, I can actually say that at that point he's a person and not just a science, not just a guy who is interested in science. Um, so yeah, if you have, I think that's all I think at the moment about Doctor Stone. So it is really good anime with lots of science. I don't know how accurate it is, but from psychological aspects, it's so. It depends on the scene, and it depends on how they would explain things. Um, and I'm really disappointed that they didn't include psychology in it. I would at least have Gen to start talking about, I don't know, Freud or something, or like he could have counseling and help others and so go on. Or like in that village, there is a priestess who has medical condition. Maybe they could find someone who has trauma, and if everything would be good, Senko would like say, "Oh, okay, that's from Freud." And even though Freud's theory is not really accurate anymore and used anymore because he was really subjective and so on, and it really depended on that era of time he was living. So some things are not as much useful as they were at that time, but at the same time, at least they would mention psychology with theories. Or they could, or Senku, if they are trying to bring more scientific things, they could start with neuroscience, which is also connected to psychology. We also had subject on it in college, so Senku could like think about brain and activity and so go on. I really hope there would be anything else than just psychology used in magic. So yeah, if you have any other comments about it or questions about Dr. Stone, or if um, how I how I'm seeing certain scene or so go on, you can ask now. And if not, I will go to Q&A and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So Lila said, going back to what you said about them being awake for thousands of years, I'm actually interested in what would happen to the human mind if that happened, such as memory and all. Yeah, it's really interesting because, as you know, over time, over time, our memory becomes, it's not really that good as when we were younger. So when we are children, our memory is not still not good. When we are toddlers or when we are even younger, we can maybe remember for certain time and certain things such as shapes and colors, and then over the time our brain is growing and our memory is expanding, and so we are there at, I don't know, 25, 30, 33 with our memory, and then slowly by slowly it's starting to drop. But it really depends on a style. If you're living a healthy style, doing lots of logical exercises or math or reading complicated books, basically training your brain, that drop which comes from old age is not really that great. Then it also depends on dementia, because dementia is also connected with genetics and so on, and there is one big factor which is stress. And once I was reading that stress is actually affecting our memory, and that some dementia can be a cause of stress. So you can actually got dementia really young, and that's a real problem in my opinion, because we are living in a world where there is lots of stress, and but when I'm talking about this, so we are getting older, but the people in Dr. Stone actually didn't change at all, right? They're still the same age, the same everything. However, I believe that if their mind was not fixing, they could be traumatized, and with trauma, memory is broken. Basically, either you're forgetting things or you don't know what happened. Maybe you can also develop dissociations, like in language of common, people double or triple or more personalities. Uh, you could also have blackouts and so go on. So if for 1,000 years their memory, they were so stressed in that stone. I think that was a lot of stress. I believe they would start to forget things. That damage of memory would be really great. So great that they would, like Lila said, they would actually forgot what happened and had no idea why everyone stole. I think that's a really good theory from Lila, because was lots of stress, and I think they wouldn't remember, or they would remember it really, really clearly, but they would have no idea about other things. Over time, anything can happen. Uh, it is really interesting that, like Lila said, that she can forget events from a week ago, that when I'm talking about with my friends or some people around me, majority doesn't remember what happened 5 years ago, what they were doing in school. So then it depends. And I believe Senko could be the one who would remember, because he is always repeating things. He remembered so many things from school books. Like he remembered about the when he was calculating something, I don't remember what, and he remembered some data for some metal or something. I think his memory is really, really good. Maybe not, we don't use the term photographic memory. I think it is eidotypic. I don't 100% remember it, but it is a really good memory. So maybe Senko wouldn't forgot, but still it is really stressful events. I think eventually something would happen with their memory, but I'm not sure 100% sure what. They could forget, or they could remember only that part, or they could start hallucinating and remember something else. Because also for time, if lots of time passes by, we are starting to remember it differently. You know, for example, imagine you are a child and you have a birthday and there is a cake. So, first of all, you experience that this I read this somewhere. You experience that cake, and then 1 year after you start to remember that cake. But 1 year after that, so 2 years after cake, you actually remember the first memory about the cake, and so go on. So when we are remembering, we are actually more we are remembering the first memory, not the actual event, because every time we remember, we can remember something a bit different. At least they say that. And every time we are trying to memorize something, we memorize it, it's somewhat different. So for time, many details don't exist anymore in a story. Many things are not as accurate anymore, and maybe they wouldn't even remember what they were doing that day. So but I'm really surprised why, when the author made them into stone, why they didn't use that science or non-science theory that if you freeze people in ice like they're doing, they would be people in the future would be able to unfroze them and help them, but they are like in coma state. They're like they're sleeping, right? But in Doctor Stone, they're fully aware of everything, and they are falling in. Basically, they are fainting, or at least that friend of Senku was fainting all over again. Senku was counting, and he was trying to. Oh, it is not 1 night, 3 nights, but it is 3,000 years. And I had the theory that actually it isn't 3,000 years, but 3 hours or something, that there is an illusion somewhere. This was actually my first theory, but I only created it because I still cannot believe that they managed to survive for 3,000 years in that condition. So now that Lila gave me an idea about stone healing their mind, yeah, I'm satisfied with that. But still, what kind of stone and what kind of thing it was? So I really want to know what's in that stone. Maybe the author heard something about new mineral or element and thought it would be cool to use it, because this is all that science is about. Science fiction is about. So basically science, but you can actually make it a fiction, like something which is really impossible. And since I'm writing more like psychological science fiction and I'm a psychologist, of course, the first thing I see is psychology in Dr. Stone and others. So really, I'm really excited for new episode. I want to see more of it. It is a really good anime. in my opinion, because it is more concentrating on science than other things, at least at the moment. And I really like that there is also psychology, but I don't think that they put it there on person or on purpose. I think it is coincident. Well, but Jen is there to be a psychologist. And if you think about it, uh, Senko, I see Senko as physics because he also has also has that equation on his shirt or something. uh, E equals mc square, while Chrome is more like a chemist for me, and then there is Gen, who is a psychologist. So I had this theory, and in the newest opening, they all appear together. If I remember correctly, I was really happy. I was like, yes, so science. And it is really good anime. So if you didn't start watching yet, or if you prefer manga, go and read it. For me, it is really. I wasn't that excited for anime for a long time. When it comes to shonen, I think Doctor Stone and Shokugeki no Soma are two manga and anime which are really, really original. Because for others, there is not as much originality as it is in those two. So those two objectively are one of top shonen anime for me in my opinion and objectively. So yeah, if you have anything else about Dr. Stone, if not, I will answer some of your questions. I wanted to make a full Q&A video, but I think that won't be possible because I'm not receiving many comments and questions. So I decided maybe at the end of every stream podcast I could answer questions. Of course, uh, I will decide if I want to answer them. If they are too personal, I won't be answering them. So if there is no other comments about Dr. Stone, I think, Laila, you wrote a question for me, but I need to... okay. She said if you could change one thing about the anime, what would it be? Also, I hope it goes on for a long time, like a Naruto length, if anime. Uh, yeah, I also hope the Doctor Stone will go on. And I see it is really popular one, so then if I could change one thing about the anime, what would it be? That's a really difficult question because I actually have more than one thing I want to change about the anime. And I'm talking about it every time I'm talking about anime. Um, yeah, one idea I really like is, or maybe not. That's a really tricky question. I really like anime. And maybe one thing that comes to mind immediately is the anime industry, like the video I sent yesterday or 2 days before, how animators are treated. I would really like to change that. I want people to be aware that anime has such a tremendous power that many people are talking how anime changed their lives. Okay, music is also one thing that is changing people's lives and help people to cope with their problems or anything they have. But anime is also like that, and they should be aware that it is really helping people, not only in Japan, because, like I said, many people in Japan use art to express themselves. I was also sharing one video about it. And anime is like that, and anime teaches people a lot. It has so many topics, from sports to science to moral questions, that many movies and series don't even cover, because in West it is more like about fun. Maybe some movies are good so you can think with them, but anime, and it's really sad that all those hardworking people don't get enough money, and that they are working so hard. And actually, when I'm reading my stories about the future, I had a solution that the anime will become global. You can see it a bit, because we have Japan. Then in China they started to make their own animations, and many times they're mixed up with Japanese, especially if there is Japanese dub. One of them is Hitori no Shita, which is actually Chinese animation, but since it was dubbed in Japanese, they're advertising it as anime. There was also Filipino animation, I think, about basketball. I wanted to watch it, but I didn't find it. I didn't find it, and I don't know if it was uploaded all everywhere, anywhere. So uh, there it is. Then you can also see in America, for example, Avatar is one of examples which deals with animation similar to Japanese. And I had this idea that if countries would step together and every country could like make their own anime, or they could help each other in some way. For example, there are art students and they could draw something and put it there. There are many good artists online and they could actually help. um, that could be maybe easier. um, they need more help. I think that could be one solution if they don't want to pay them more. They need more people so that people can work for reasonable hours, not for whole day and not as much payment. um, so I believe that in the future anime might be part of more countries than just Japan. Of course, I know that anime means animation, and it could also mean any kind of cartoons and so on, but I still see it that animation in Japan is so different than animation, for example, in my country, that when you say anime, you actually mean something else when you say cartoon or animation or something else. So yeah, I really wish to change that. Then Norbert, I don't think if he's still online, he said that I should read Deep Love series. I've never heard of this series, so if you're still here or if you'll watch this later, please explain what this series is all about and why should I read it. That I will then search for it to see what's up. Deep Love series. Okay. If you have any other questions about my work or my channel or my page or what I do, you can now ask me or my opinion about it. So I heard that previous week was actually Dyslexia Awareness Week. I didn't know that. And that this next week will be OCD Awareness Week. I think I read this somewhere. So I guess every week in October is about awareness about mental health. Uh, so that's interesting. I'm really glad that there is more awareness, but let's keep that awareness for whole year, not only few days and we are all trying to do something from few days and 1 week and then nothing about it, but for whole year. If you see someone who needs a kind word or help or anything, help them. I had this idea that the we have professionals, but since the number of mental disorders is growing and maybe the number of professions is declining, at least in my country it is, we have big problems with clinical psychologists and doctors and so go on. We need to overpower as many people as we can, because for many things I think people only need a kind talk or someone to talk to, or you could help them in many ways for short time, or at least until they find proper help, or at least for them to wait to get proper help, because sometimes waiting lines for help are so long and so on. So I really encourage that you try to talk and listen, and sometimes when people who are building many things inside of them start to talk, they can a bit feel a bit different and maybe a bit more relaxed, because so far maybe no one listened to them or they were afraid to talk to them. And I understand that, because it is really difficult to listen to others with that kind of problems, because you think you aren't good enough to help them, or you don't know how, or it is just a mechanism you learned. But it is important to at least say hi or ask them how they are. And I really wish that more people would make videos like this and to teach others about it. I think we need that, especially in today's world. And thank you, Lala, for all your kind words. Um, we could say that you're actually my number one fan at this moment, at least on here on Facebook. Well, I don't really post on other social media anymore, because it is either impractical or I don't have ideas for it. So if Facebook is a really good tool for sharing things. And yeah, if you don't have any other questions, I will stop this stream, and will later on upload both parts, the beginning and this one, to YouTube, so you can also share it from there or comment or like. um, and if you have any suggestions what should I do for next week, you can write it on my group or on this page or to me. If not, I will talk about Chunibyo, which is one of the topics I actually researched the most for magazine I'm reading for, and I will talk a bit about that and what is that and how it appears in anime and so go on. Um, but yeah, so Thank you for joining this stream, and thank you if you watch this video after it was posted on Facebook or on YouTube. Um, I highly recommend watching Dr. Stone, um, and that you, when you're watching it, maybe Google or read about many methods that are used in the anime, so you can learn more about science and other things. So thank you all, and like always, remember, you matter. So really thank you again for joining me, and see you next time.